Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive? Today we're taking you on a journey to discover the science behind amazing skin. We're talking all about retinoids. Now we're going deep with a research paper. A pretty dense one, I might add. It's in Spanish, but don't worry, we've got you covered with the translations. We'll break down the most fascinating stuff about how these retinoids work.
You know what's really cool about retinoids? They're not just some trendy skincare ingredient. We're talking serious science here. Decades of research back up how powerful these things are. They can really tackle a bunch of skin concerns, acne, wrinkles, even stuff like
Wow,
psoriasis.
that's super impressive. So let's back up for a sec. What exactly are retinoids? I feel like I've seen that word a million times, but never really got what it meant.
Okay, so picture this. You've got vitamin A, right. Now give it a mega upgrade. Boom. You've got retinoids. They're like vitamin A's superpowered cousins, and they are amazing for skin health. They're so good they even use them in eye care for night blindness. Ever heard of tretinoin, adapalene? Those are all part of the retinoid family.
Okay, starting to get it now. It's not just one thing, it's a whole group of ingredients.
hmm
But how do they actually work on the skin? Do they just kind of sit on top, or is there something more going on?
Okay, so this is where things get really cool. To really get retinoids, we got to go on a little trip. A trip under the surface of your skin. Imagine your skin's like a cake. Okay. The epidermis, that's the outer layer, it's like the frosting, the part you see and feel. It's mostly made up of these cells called keratinocytes. They're basically the building blocks of that outer layer.
Okay, so that's the frosting. What about what's underneath? The actual cake part.
All right, so under the frosting, we've got the dermis. That's like the cake layers themselves. It's the support system that gives your skin all its strength and that bounce, packed with collagen and elastin to keep things firm.
Collagen. That's the stuff everyone's always talking about for younger looking skin. But there's got to be more to this layer than just collagen, right?
Oh, absolutely. We've also got fibroblasts down there. They're like the little construction workers of the dermis, constantly building new collagen. And then there's the melanocytes. Those are the pigment factories deciding your skin's color.
Wow, so it's like a whole city down there under our skin. So how do these retinoids fit into all of this?
Okay, so here's the magic part. Retinoids are like these tiny ninjas. They can sneak past that outer layer, the epidermis, and they get down to all those key cells we were just talking about. They're lipophilic, meaning they love fat, so they can slip right through cell
So
membranes.
they're not just hanging out on the surface, they're going deep undercover. What happens when they reach those cells?
Okay, so once they're in, they make a beeline for the cell's nucleus. That's like the control center of the cell. And they attach to special receptors there. Think of it like a key fitting into a lock. That's how retinoids work on a cellular level. And when that happens, they set off a chain reaction that can totally transform your skin.
All right, I'm hooked. What kind of transformation are we talking about here?
First up, retinoids boost cell turnover. It's like hitting the refresh button for your skin. They get rid of all the old damaged cells and make way for fresh new ones. Think smoother, brighter skin.
So it's not just about preventing aging, it's actually renewing the skin.
You got it. And here's where the collagen comes in. Retinoids are one of the few things out there that can actually get those fibroblasts to make more collagen. And that is huge E, because collagen is what keeps your skin looking young and plump. It helps reduce those wrinkles.
Wait, so you're saying retinoids can actually help reverse signs of aging by boosting collagen? That's amazing. Starting to see why everyone's so excited about these little ninjas.
Exactly. And there's more. They also help regulate pigment production, which means they can even out your skin tone and fade those dark spots.
Wow, retinoids are like the ultimate multitaskers. This paper actually gets into some pretty complex stuff about all the cellular processes involved, even mentions things like apoptosis and angiogenesis.
Yeah, the science can get pretty deep. But basically what's happening is retinoids are changing how cells behave, encouraging them to act in a healthier, more youthful way. It's not just about covering up the problem. It's about tackling it at the source.
Okay, so we've seen how retinoids work their magic on a cellular level. Now let's talk about how you can actually USE this stuff in your own skincare routine. How do you actually put these retinoids into action?
That's a great question, and that's where things can get a little tricky. Picking the right retinoid and using it the right way are key to getting the best results without irritating your skin.
Picking the right retinoid and using it the right way.
Hmm.
Okay, that definitely sounds like there's a lot to think about. It's not just grabbing any product with retinol on it, is it?
You're right about that. It's kind of like finding the perfect pair of jeans. Gotta find the right fit for you.
Yeah.
And just like with jeans, there's a ton of options when it comes to retinoids.
Okay, so walk me through it. What are the different kinds of retinoids, like the main players in this skincare family?
Okay, let's start with the big one, tretinoin. This is prescription strength, like the gold standard for a lot of dermatologists. It's super effective, but also more likely to cause irritation, especially if you're just starting out.
So probably not the best one to jump in with if you're new to retinoids.
Exactly. You wouldn't run a marathon without training first, right? So for those just dipping their toes in the retinoid pool, Adapalene is often a good choice. It's a bit gentler on the skin, and a lot of times it's recommended for people dealing with acne.
Ah, that's why I've seen adapalene in so many acne products. Now, what about retinol? That's the one I see everywhere,
Yeah.
from the drugstore to fancy skincare brands.
Oh yeah, retinol. That's like the over-the-counter superstar of the retinoid world. Less potent than tretinoin, but still really effective for improving skin texture, wrinkles, and fading hyperpigmentation.
But if it's less potent, does that mean it's just not as good overall?
Okay, here's what's interesting. Retinol, unlike tretinoin, it actually needs to be converted by your skin into retinoic acid, and that's the active form that actually does all the work.
So it's like a pre-retinoid. It has to transform before it can really get going. Does that mean it takes longer to see results then?
You could say that. It is a bit slower acting than tretinoin because of that extra conversion step, but it's also generally pretty well tolerated, so that makes it a good option for people with sensitive skin or who are new to the whole retinoid thing.
This is so interesting. There really is a lot more to retinoids than I realized. The paper also mentions something called retinol palmitate. Where does that one fit in?
Oh yeah, retinol palmitate. That one's actually a precursor to retinol, so it needs to be converted into retinol and then into retinoic acid to be really effective.
So it's even further down the line than retinol, like the rookie of the retinoid family.
Exactly. And because it goes through that extra conversion step, it's considered the least potent of the retinoids we've talked about. It can still be good for your skin, but if you're looking for more dramatic results, you might want to go with retinol or even a prescription retinoid.
Okay, so we've got this whole spectrum of retinoids, from the really powerful prescription ones to the gentler over-the-counter options. This is where it starts to feel a little overwhelming for me, honestly. How do you know which one's right for you?
That's a really good question. And this is where a dermatologist can be super helpful. They can look at your skin type, what you're concerned about your goals, and help you figure out which retinoid is the best fit.
So it's like having a personal retinoid coach. But even if you're not seeing a dermatologist, what are some general tips for picking the right retinoid?
Well, one big thing is your skin type. If you've got sensitive skin, you probably want to start with a lower concentration of retinol or adapalene and slowly work your way up as your skin gets used to it. If you have oily skin or you're prone to breakouts, you might be able to handle a higher concentration or even a prescription retinoid.
So start slow and listen to your skin.
Exactly. And don't forget about your goals. What are you hoping to get out of using a retinoid? Less wrinkles. Even skin tone, get rid of acne. Different retinoids are better for different things. So you got to choose one that matches what you're trying to achieve.
Okay, so you've picked your retinoid champion. What's the best way to actually use it in your routine?
This is where patience and consistency are super important. Remember those tiny ninjas we were talking about? They're powerful, but they need time to work their magic.
No instant gratification with retinoids, huh?
Nope. You want to start slowly to minimize irritation. If you're new to retinoids, try applying a pea-sized amount once or twice a week at night.
Why at night? Does something happen with retinoids in the sun?
You're good. Retinoids can make your skin more sensitive to the sun. That's why it's best to put them on before bed. And always wear sunscreen during the day.
Sunscreen no matter what, especially with retinoids.
Absolutely. Also, make sure your skin is clean and dry before you put on your retinoid.
Okay, clean, dry skin check. What about layering with other products? I've got a whole cabinet of serums and moisturizers. Can I use those with retinoids?
That can be a little tricky. Usually it's best to apply retinoids on bare skin, let them soak in all the way, and then put other stuff on top.
So no retinoid sandwiches.
Haha. I like that visual, but probably not the best idea. But hey, there are always exceptions. A dermatologist can give you the best advice on layering for your skin and the products you use.
This is where having that retinoid coach would come in handy. Speaking of potential challenges, though, let's talk about side effects. We've touched on it a little, but it's worth digging deeper. What are some common side effects of retinoids, and how can you minimize them? Side effects, yeah, that's always the part that makes me a little nervous when I'm trying something new.
Yeah.
What should people be aware of with retinoids?
Yeah, it's good to know what to look out for, especially because some of it can feel kind of weird at first. The most common things you might see, especially in the beginning, are like dryness, redness, some flaking, and your skin might get a little more sensitive to the sun.
So basically, your skin might freak out a bit.
It's kind of like an adjustment period for your skin. Remember, retinoids are speeding up cell turnover, so things are moving faster than usual down there. That's why it's so important to start slow and gradually increase how often you use it and how strong it is.
And if you do get some of that dryness or redness,
Yeah.
what's the best thing to do?
First of all, don't freak out. It's usually temporary. You can try cutting back on how often you use it, maybe go back to once a week, or switch to a gentler formula until your skin gets used to it.
Okay, so back off a little, let your skin chill out. What about moisturizing? Does that help?
Oh, absolutely. Moisturizing is your best friend when you're using retinoids. It helps with that dryness and keeps your skin barrier strong.
So retinoids speed things up, and moisturizer kind of calms things down and protects. It's like a balancing act.
I like that. Now, there's another side effect that people talk about with retinoids, and it can be kind of scary sounding. Have you ever heard of retinoid purging?
Oh yeah, purging. I've heard of that. Sounds kind of intense, like your skin is staging a revolt.
It can definitely feel that way. Basically, what's happening is any breakouts that were already brewing under the surface, they come to the surface faster because of the retinoid.
So it's like the retinoid is fast-forwarding the breakout process.
Exactly. And I know it can be frustrating to deal with, but it's usually temporary, and actually it's a good sign. It means the retinoid is doing its job.
So it might get a little worse before it gets better, but it's a good thing in the long run.
Exactly. But hey, if you're having really bad irritation, that just won't go away. Or if anything feels off, definitely talk to a dermatologist. They can figure out if it's purging or something else, and they can help you adjust your retinoid plan.
Sounds like a dermatologist can really help make the whole retinoid thing a lot easier.
For sure. Now, before we wrap up our retinoid deep dive, I want to go back to something really important we talked about earlier, retinoids and pregnancy.
Yes, this is so important for anyone who is pregnant, breastfeeding, or even thinking about getting pregnant.
Right. We know that oral retinoids, like isotretinoin, those can cause serious birth defects. Topical retinoids, the kind we've been talking about, those are generally considered lower risk, but we still don't have a ton of research on them.
So when it comes to pregnancy, is it best to just avoid retinoids completely?
Yeah, that's definitely the safest bet. There are other ways to take care of your skin while you're pregnant, and your doctor can help you figure out what's best.
Better to be safe than sorry, especially when it comes to something as important as you and your baby's health.
Couldn't agree more. And I think this brings up a good point. Retinoids are amazing. They can be really effective, but they're not a miracle cure. They're one part of a whole approach to skin health. Things like wearing sunscreen, eating healthy, managing stress, getting enough sleep, all that good stuff.
Like you said before, it's a whole body approach to getting that glow.
Exactly. And that's a great takeaway for our listeners today. Retinoids can totally change your skin, but they work best when you're taking care of yourself overall.
Love that reminder. True skin health comes from within. And all the choices we make each day. Wow, this deep dive has been amazing. I feel like I finally understand retinoids. From the tiny cells all the way up to how to choose the right one and use it safely.
I'm so happy to hear that. Remember, knowledge is power, and now you've got the power to make smart choices about your skin.
And don't be afraid to ask your dermatologist questions. They can help you create a retinoid plan that's perfect for you and help you reach your skincare goals.
Absolutely. And hey, share this with your friends and family. Everyone deserves to have healthy, glowing skin.
Spread the word. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive, everyone. We'll see you next time for more skincare adventures.